Welcome to the $1 Million Multi-Op Podcast. Here, you're going to find education, entertainment, and a little inspiration on how to get to the next level. Are you a DJ company owner that's looking for the secret sauce? Congrats, you found it.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the $1 Million Multi-Op Podcast. I'm your host, David Osborne with BlueprintLearn.com. On the podcast today, we have my good friend, Rosice Batsuli. Welcome,
Yes,
Rosice.
Hey, David, what's going on, man?
You know, we're just chilling. Studio audience with us here. And, listeners don't know this, but we are recording virtually, but we don't live that far apart.
Nah.
About 3 hours, maybe?
Yeah, not far at all, man.
Yeah. I'm in Athens, Georgia, and you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, which seems to be like a hotbed. There's a lot of activity happening in that town.
The Queen City. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's a lot going on, a lot of change, a lot of construction, a lot of people moving to this area. Yeah, man.
Yeah, North Carolina is a beautiful state.
Beautiful state.
Yeah, man. I think, North Georgia, North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, we got some special stuff. You go to West Tennessee, you go to like South Georgia, it changes. It's different. So if you're up near the mountains and the trees and stuff, it's nice.
You got some people that's going to be mad at you for that.
That's okay. Let them be mad. Let them be mad. I was just in South Georgia the other day for a wedding, and I stand by what I said. Savannah. I like Savannah. Savannah's nice.
Savannah,
I was just there's a lot of chicken farms, and it's, I like the forest. I like the trees. Well, Rossi, I've known you for a while now, and I know a good bit about your business. I know about what you're doing on the DJ side, on the AV side. I know where you're growing. But kind of share with the listeners, share with us kind of your synopsis of a journey, getting into DJing, and really focusing on the full-time aspect and how you got into that.
Yeah. So, from a DJ perspective, I started in the early 2000s. Started in the Triad area, and to make things short, got into radio from being a college DJ up in the Winston-Salem, the Triad area, for those of y'all that are in North Carolina, and from there would DJ in the Triangle, which is Raleigh, Durham, and Charlotte, and all that stuff. Fast forward, I launched the concept of the multi-op DJ company was foreign. I'm going to be honest with you, and I may make some people uncomfortable, but when it comes to African American DJs, the concept of the multi-op was kind of foreign. Like, I didn't even know that you can do this. It was, matter of fact, I was online and I accidentally saw like a promo video from back then he was Sound Connection Entertainment. I was like, so you can hire multiple DJs to work for you, and what's this called? And then it made me pay attention to whoever else was doing it in my town. And in 2014, while I was working a full-time job, I started DJing and so on and so forth, and learning more about the DJ industry, and this can really be a career. And I was mind blown. I was like, so I don't have to be in the clubs, like,
right?
Wow, like it just threw me. So while I'm DJing at this time, the only person that was working with me was my wife. It was my wife, and I was a marketing director at the time, with dreams of going full time, like typical DJs want to. And my wife at the time was pregnant, and we lost a baby. She delivered the baby. The baby was 5 months, and anybody that's ever been through that experience understands how painful that is, and how your world stops, but everything else keeps going. So I was driving back home to pick up some, things for my wife, and I was like, I don't ever want to live life limited. Like, life is too short. Like, if I want to do it, just do it. Like, no plan B. Like, and I know that might be foolish to some people that, need a financial plan, and that may not be for everybody, but I was very dogmatic about, life is like this, man. Like, I don't want to look back and regret that I could have, DJ full time, started a company, but I was too scared because the numbers didn't add up or whatever. So long story short, a couple months after that, I ended up going full time. And no, I didn't have money in the bank. I would say I probably I probably have $1,500.
Yeah.
I probably had $1,500, which was probably from a severance package from the job or whatever. I don't remember. And
That
to
won't
be
even
honest,
buy a Rev 7, dog.
yeah, $1,500, bro. And I think, to be honest with you, I'm pretty strong on my faith. I think I gave the whole thing to my church. But that was one of the most scariest but most exhilarating year that I ever had when betting on myself, So I ended up replacing well, I thought I replaced my salary. I didn't really have a lot of knowledge about taxes and stuff like that. But just the mere fact that I can generate that much revenue on my own time, which was more than what I was making as a marketing director, was like, I can do this.
Yeah, you
you
can
know?
do this.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it only takes a few minutes of riding that bike without the training wheels and you feeling that wind to be like, I got this.
You're gonna skin up your knee just a few times.
A few times.
You can...
But all you need to do is feel it, and then the idea hits you. Let me pedal faster.
Yeah.
So from there, and I went full time, and then in 2018, I experimented with bringing on, hiring more people, which I did it in the most foolish way. Another thing, jumping out the window again, and just threw a net out there and say, hey, anybody want to work events?
Right.
Not qualifying anybody. So I'm sure you probably know that group of people didn't last long.
No.
And then from there, I don't want to get too deep in the story, but that kind of introduced me into hiring my first DJ at the time and being full time and so on and so forth.
But you're describing what so many people go through, but what you're really touching on is your character and your entrepreneurial spirit, because, okay, I've got 4 kids. I've taught many children to ride a bike, and the longer you keep the training wheels on, the longer it takes. You get comfortable. I think getting comfortable is one of the biggest things that keeps people from. What's that book? Good to Great. It's like great. Comfort. As comfortable as it is and nice, it's one of those things that stagnates your growth and keeps you bound in fear. When you take that comfort away, it is one heck of a motivator.
For sure.
Because you don't have that plan B, right?
For sure.
And something that you talked about, and thank you for sharing that kind of that origin story. Y'all losing that baby was such a defining moment for you.
For sure.
Because, I talk about this socially with people I know is, I'm 42, I'm a man, and someone who's 19 is also technically a man.
Yeah.
But we are not the same, because the difference between those ages, or even between me and my parents' generation, is a lot of tragedy and a lot of failure and a lot of disappointment. And those are the things that forced you into growth and motivation and like all the good stuff that comes out of it. So it's 100%. Like a defining moment for you that you were like, that's it, and unfortunately sometimes it takes tragedy or terrible things to really push you. But talk about a little more about that. Like, okay, no plan B. That is a romantic term. Right? Because we all would like to think, hey, I got no plan B. I'm going to jump off the cliff. I'm going to build the plane while I'm jumping off.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of fear there, right? You go all in. How do you get comfortable with that level of risk?
With just jumping off the cliff and building the plane.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you ever get comfortable. For me, here's the deal. Like, and maybe a character thing or personality thing, maybe someone out there can relate. Like it's cool that we're telling these stories as far as me jumping off the cliff, and I'm going to share a few examples later, but it doesn't get comfortable. Like I face the same fear as everyone else. Like I say, it's just something that, you just jump. Like you just jump scared. Like, we were talking a little bit as far as like I have a yearning for education, and my parents are African. So that education piece is real big to me, but I also know how much the education can really propel you to another level and kind of save you from heartache a little bit. And that's why I applaud what you do with the blueprint. But like we were talking about mentor pods. Man, I couldn't afford mentor pods when that first happened, man. Like Matt, if you listen to this, I could, man, listen. And for some of us, it's not even really about affording. It's really about, like, from a business perspective, like, this thing I'm about to invest in, I have to see some sort of return on it. Because it's going to leave a nice little hole in whatever that I'm doing, or account, or whatever. But at the end of the day, believing that I'm going to take that information and I'm going to run with it. I'm going to run with it, and I'm going to, bring the ROI, because I have to, you know what I'm saying, at the end of the day. So, David, I hope I answered your question there, but
I think you did. I think
yeah,
you did.
man.
You said it doesn't ever get comfortable.
No, never.
But you do it anyways.
You do it anyway. There's a book out there by it's not Do It Afraid. I wish I knew the author. I think her name is Susan Jeffers. Long story short, it's a concept of feeling the fear and do it anyway. Long story short, you won't get comfortable. Now you do build a tolerance of a way you move as far as mindset goes. Is like, I'm not going to let this stop me. How can I? But we're humans. You're going to feel that, especially when it comes to things financially or things with your family and stuff like that. You're going to have those questions or those thoughts or doubts. And even when you jump, whether it's going full time, investing in that gear that you really don't have no business for. And when cold sparklers came out, everybody was talking about it. Of course, there's wisdom to, book it before you have it and all that. But the truth of the matter is, like, you spend all that money on cold sparklers, and now all of a sudden they're talking about, the fire marshal and codes and all that. I mean, what you gonna do now? What you gonna do now? Like, you've already invested the money. Nah, you jump out there, go ham, do what you can, and make it happen. And I know it sounds cool for me to say it like that, but I had the same fears of, like, oh my gosh, I just bought all these cold sparklers. This market is kind of finicky on the fire marshal. Venues are scared of it. They don't understand it. Everybody in New Jersey is doing it. So it's looking great from North Carolina, but North Carolina isn't really catching up.
Different state, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, did I make a mistake? Or, it's like, this crosses over to everything. Equipment, what you investing in yourself, all that.
But I think it's like two things, right? There's like two pieces of what you're talking about here. One piece is the idea that when you want to adopt a new way of thinking or a new habit or a new, like, okay, you're listening to this and you're like, I don't do it scared. I'm very safe. I'm very conservative. I want to be riskier, but I can't do it. Mm-hmm. It's all in, like, the small steps. Like, you got to do one thing that's not that big of a deal that requires, jumping off. Like, maybe you're like, I'm just going to drive around town till I eat to find a restaurant to eat at. And I'm not going to plan it ahead of time. And maybe that freaks you out. That's not that big of a deal compared to other things. And every time you get a win, every time you successfully do something where you take risks and you end up okay, it's going to give you that confidence to try something bigger, try something bigger, try something bigger, try something bigger. You don't go from not being confident with risk to fully confident with risk in like a day or a week. It's over time. Would you say that's mirrors part of your journey?
Oh, for sure. One thing, and now I kind of want to take it back as far as, like, not getting comfortable at all. What you do build is a tolerance, and I think you just spoke to that. Like, you're able to handle this level of risk now because you walk through there. So, for example, before we hopped on, we talked about money mindsets and ceilings. So, for a clear example, it may have made you nervous to buy you a pair of QSC K12s at one point. That price may have made you nervous. Mm-hmm. And you start, understanding the value of them. You start using them. And then now, as you're going into AV, buying some K12s is like, whatever, we can get 10 of those. But now when it comes down to purchasing a stack of RCF HDL6s, you're starting to feel that feeling again. They went away with the K12s or any point source speaker, but now with the arrays or bigger investments, like your ceiling went up, but now you hit something else that is kind of making you uncomfortable a little bit. And I will say the thing that has helped me tremendously that can get you like out of your comfort zone period, because that's in essence what we're talking about. The finances and what you do is just a representation of what's going on the inside. Is being around people that are doing bigger things than you, where their conversation makes you nervous.
Yeah, it gives you confidence. I mean, it gives you it's not accountability because no one's directly checking on you, but it's that feeling of like that's just your surroundings. That's your tribe, that's your people, and you are going to kind of, what does they say? Like if you hang out with 5 millionaires, you'll be the sixth.
Oh, 100%. I believe that wholeheartedly. Even down to hiring people. Like you all don't know. I've been David's been helping me out with kind of guiding me on hiring and recruitment, which was and still is a very uncomfortable process as it relates to prioritizing it. But being around him has kind of stretched, and pushed me to do certain things that I'm typically not used to doing. So just the proximity of having someone that is at ease with a particular thing can start to raise the tolerance of whatever you're uncomfortable with. So
support system.
Yeah.
And I could guarantee you, how long have you been in business? About?
I would say I've been in business.
Or at least Ceasefire. Like how long has that company been around?
Maybe about 2. We're approaching 10 years.
Okay.
Maybe a little over 10.
You built up in 10 years what you have now. I'm going to take a stab at this. I could probably pick you up, move you across the country to another market, get rid of what you have in North Carolina. You could be up where you're at now.
Yes.
In a fraction of the time.
Yeah. In
a new market because you have built yourself.
Yeah.
You built yourself, right? It's the same thing we talk about in people that listen to this podcast a lot know that I used to be a music educator and classically trained trumpet and all that stuff. So it took, when I was in middle school and I was learning the trumpet, I was learning how to play the instrument and I was learning all about music. I was learning about notes and rhythms and composers and, being, all the things, right? But now that I'm like a successful, accomplished, trained musician, give me another instrument and I'll learn it in a fraction of the time because I've already learned all the music stuff. I just have to learn this instrument. So you have learned how to take risks. You've learned that when you buy equipment, you are going to make profit off of it.
For sure.
Now you can take that same risk to the RCF, to the line array, and you can say, okay, this is way more money, right? But I can also make way more money. And you're going to take that, what you've built in yourself, and you're just going to push it out. So you're getting more comfortable with that feeling.
Yeah. And comfortable with screwing up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're going to mess up. Like you're going to screw up. Without sharing too much, like I really had no clue about business taxes at all in those early days. So let's just say that definitely some school of hard knock lessons that I learned and still learning. So yeah, you're gonna screw up at the end of the day, but just really believing in yourself and knowing yourself, because you still may not be someone that's okay with risk. And it may make you feel more comfortable and give you a little more peace to have a plan B. I think you go all out when you don't have a plan B. Like there's a dogmatic approach to saying like, this is it, especially when you have a family.
Oh, yes. But really clearly defining that why is so important. And I want to circle back because, you mentioned the idea of like challenging your beliefs on money and the capacity to really believe that you deserve or you're able to do a thing, which is something that I struggle with still but you talked about that story. You're like, hey, from the African-American community, multi-ops are just not what they are in other demographics. Right. And I think when you look on chat forums and you look on Facebook groups and like real talk, people are like, why is there so much underrepresentation of different demographics at these conferences? And you're like, well, like DJ culture with multi-ops is kind of lopsided. You know, you don't have a lot of like, you know, Mexican or Guatemalan owned multi-ops. You have a few, but so like the percentage of people that go to a conference is very small. And out of that percentage, how many of them out of like these other groups are represented, right? So there was a point in your journey, right, where you saw this thing, you're like, I could do this. Okay. But you had to be like, there's not many people from my cultural background doing this. When did, or what did it take to kind of own that and say, I'm doing it?
I will say for me, my dad has always been, so my dad is African. So he brung us, he left the Democratic Republic of Congo, went to Europe, had us, and came to the States. The reason why I share that is because the subconscious effect of watching your dad move from one country to the other, when that's not a thing, does sow a like pioneering seed in you. Like, I've always been, if you can ask my family or my family members, I'm always gonna go down a path that like nobody's checking out. So when I saw that, I was like, we didn't talk about this coming up. Like when you're talking about DJing from an African American standpoint, and I don't want to categorize it for anyone, I'm just speaking from my perspective. Growing up on hip hop, and I grew up on everything, but when you're talking about the DJing, the art of DJing, you're talking about the celebrity DJ. You're talking about the person. If you're talking about hip hop from the early 90s, late 90s, 2000s, the DJ's view to us was the celebrity DJ. Like you're talking DJ, for those of y'all that are listening to me now, these names may ring a bell. DJ Clue out of New York, DJ SNS. You're talking for those of y'all that were in Georgia when he had his run, DJ Drama, which you heard his mixtapes all through the trunks, and you know, and then DJ Khaled coming more, you know. So the idea of a multi-op company with DJing is foreign. Foreign, and you're talking about a culture where everybody wants to be the man or the person when it comes to DJing. So, you know, we had no clue. So when I found out about it, or when I saw a glimpse of what it can be, I said, wow, like this sounds awesome. And I ruthlessly dug through who in my market was doing it, how they were doing it, what's the type of money that you can make. Like it just, you know, and what we do is no different from like a, you know, a realtor or a realtor company or so on and so forth that has multiple. Now there's more nuances, but the fact that I can turn this into a career, build wealth, and really take care of my family through an art that I really enjoy was awesome. But you got to think, when I was doing radio and concerts years ago, we thought weddings were corny. We thought weddings were corny. I'm gonna be honest with you. We thought weddings were corny. Like DJ a corporate event, yeah, right. Like I want to be on the stage, you know, maybe touring with an artist.
Yeah.
Clubs.
So it's identity.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
That's, yeah. And I think, you know, it's what's not uncommon is a lot of the conversations that I have with people that are interested in what we do at the Blueprint, right? They're like, hey, I'm interested in growing a team, but I have talked to in the past half a year, people that are TikTok famous, people that are, you know, high-end luxury DJs that command insane rates. And what they do personally isn't very scalable. You know, like they themselves are a remarkable talent. And in their heads, they go, no one can do this like me. I am a practitioner. I'm the celebrity DJ. And I go, yeah, you're right. No one can. You're correct. Don't even try to fight it. Don't even try and scale that. Understanding that like you can be over here in this little bucket where you do your art thing. And then over here, can be like a bunch of systems and processes and staff that run and make you a business owner can also be true. But like we were talking about this before we got on the call, that we're talking about the book, was it Cash Flow Quadrant? And he's talking about to become a business owner and leave being the self-employed practitioner, you can't just do that. For sure. You can't just step in and be like, today I own a business. You got to go on a journey. You got to get right with yourself, and you got to accept that you got to put some of that ego down. It's super hard to do. Yep. Talk to us about now, right? You found some success putting some of the ego down and embracing some of the business practices that will actually create sustainability for your family and your future. What are some of the things that you are proud of over the past, I'd say like year, maybe be loose with the months. It could be 2 years, whatever. But recently that you've done that are like, man, I'm proud of that thing that I've done in this journey that I'm taking towards more on the business side.
A couple things. One, currently we have a small team. So if you're listening to this and it's been a year, the team has probably grown hanging out with this guy. But I have team members that have really said to me that they appreciate the honesty, the transparency, and working for Ceasefire Productions. That's it. And subcontractors as well. That has meant the world to me, and has shown that all the work in creating SOPs and trying to create a culture when you all are mostly virtual has been kind of cool. And like I said, we don't have a big team, so whenever one of them does share their feedback of how much they appreciate the leadership and the company and who they work for, it just means a lot to me. Second is one thing I'm definitely proud of, man, the pursuit of, changing spaces in the quadrant is really paying attention to the data and the numbers, like to really make informed decisions. Because I think if you're a risk taker or someone that likes to jump and make the airplane midway, you have the capacity to see that this is going to be very beneficial for me, but I need to experience a little uncomfortability. When you have data, it just makes you a lot more dangerous, like as a business owner, in a good way. Like, how many leads are you getting? Average dollar sale? How many? Because there's a lot of, David, man, Instagram and TikTok culture. There's a lot of coaches out there with that. All you need is this amount of, let me teach you how to create an online product. You need 100 products at this price to make this amount. And they don't understand like seasonality. What works for you might not work for someone else. I mean, all the little nuances that you can get stuck in. So data is a beast for me. Like I love it. It's almost like the P&L is telling me like, this is what's happening. And if you don't watch this, this is where we're headed. It's like the business starts to look like a machine a little bit, to where you can just kind of pull something out. Like, if I put this in, will it give me like an extra $12,000? Or, you know what I'm saying? It's just kind of cool. Like, business is fantastic. I love it.
You got the level up, Rosice.
I got the level up.
You got the level up. Rosice spitting fire all this over here. Man, that is gold though. But what is it? Data doesn't have an opinion.
Nah.
Doesn't have an opinion.
It's the most honest friend you have is the data.
And let me tell you, I look at my P&L at least once a week because I got my scorecards. I look at that.
Yeah.
I do budget reviews.
Yeah.
I look at it and I go, I just had to spend quite a lot of money recently on printer media and cold spark powder. And I wasn't expecting to have to spend that. It was not in my budget for the month, and it's going to reflect. I'm already thinking about it. When I get to like April 2nd or something, when I do my March budget review, I'm going to be like, look at this. Look at this. Like, look at this fixed expense that's over the, Okay. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, man, that's amazing. I love hearing your journey, and I love hearing what you've been going through and how motivated you are. That's something about you that inspires me, is that you continue to bet on yourself, even when it's hard.
Sure.
And you are relentless in your pursuit of resources for
sure.
yourself. Like, you're not going to just be like, oh, I can't figure out the answer. Oh, well, you can be like, I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to find the answer.
Yeah.
And when you find it, it's going to be that level up for yourself. So that's awesome, man.
For sure. Yeah, man. I'm in it. I'm in it right now for an event. I have an audio visual event we have coming up. Just yeah, man. Yeah, I think the term, what is it? And you added a, what is it? Hook it, book it, then cook it. What'd you say? Hook it,
book it, cook it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you gotta hook it even if you don't know how to hook it yet, and then figure it out in between. Or
yeah, we've done a few things in the past 12 months where I've hooked it, and I thought there's gonna be more of it happening. And it didn't, because I wouldn't even say that I read it wrong. You go from like you have a corporate relationship with like a new partner, and in the first month you're a partner, they give you like 11 shows, and you're like, well, this looks good. Let me buy some. I'm going to buy myself a podium. Like, I'm going to buy the things that I need for this, because this seems like it's going to keep happening, and it doesn't keep happening.
You're like, well, hey, I just ordered some pipe and drape this morning, so I'm just jumping in there. So
sometimes you do it, and then then you got pipe and drape.
Yeah, there it is.
And then you decide it's like the rent versus buy. You're like, I think it's time to buy. I mean, there's data. There's data to help you with that decision. But sometimes you're just right on that bubble. You're right on that line, and you're like,
yeah.
So sometimes you just got to jump off.
For sure, man.
Well, man, speaking of jumping off, that about closes up our time together. So why don't you tell everybody how they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Rosice Batsuli, ROSICE BATSULI. Ceasefire Productions is on Instagram as well. CEASE Fire PRODS. Ceasefireproductions.com, or you can just send me an email. I'm sure Dave will have it in the show notes or whatever. But yeah, we'd love to chat. If you got any questions or thoughts, or just want to be like, I feel you.
Yeah, hit them up. Hit them up. And everybody, there are always free resources at blueprintlearn.com/resources. And we'll see you on the next one.